I've become the main person who talks about the regional versions of Hogs of War, and the various different changes that make each version unique. At least that's what I see. With the community giving my videos the silent treatment, I hardly know if I'm ever being seen. Well, not today, because I announced this whole video to the Hogs of War Discord. And this time out, I'm taking a dive into something I only just learned about recently and that I found truly spectacular. Because for this video, we are taking a dive into the German version, Frontschweine. For the last two videos of Hogs of War, I did them in regards to the characters and voice work. Namely, the Italian version's Suini Bellici, an Italian variant of the Sushi Swine, and the French version's complete rewrite of everything with new characters. And now, it's not Frontschweine's turn. Yet. Rather, I want to take a look at this. This is the information booklet, not to be confused with the game manual, that came with the game. And what's special about this is that, distinct from every other version of the game, it has a detailed description of every character for all 6 of the main teams. If anything, this booklet is a goldmine of additional lore for Hogs of War! In Germany. Because a lot of the information, in fact almost all of it, is only relevant to the German version, since a lot of the characters got renamed and some of them were given new personality traits. I've yet to do a dive into the voice lines, so I cannot confirm who is what and who is brand new. It would be speculation and a very rough educated guess at best, so we won't be going over those. I don't even have any good translations at this time. Though on the matter of which, I have taken the liberty of making an effort to translate and localize this booklet into English, retaining as much of the initial wording integrity from the original German as possible. But I'm not going to say I did a good job of it. I probably did an adequate job using the resources I had at my disposal, so do forgive me if I made any glaring errors. Furthermore, I did take a few handful of creative liberties in order for the bios to make as much sense as possible. So if there are any particular discrepancies you notice, that's your explanation why. Though, don't be afraid to point out any major mistakes I may have made. Oh, and before we begin proper, big thank you and applause goes to Bobby Gottlieb for sharing this booklet with me, along with the video that helped me with the translations and a certain something else you'll be seeing in a moment. This was incredible, mate, and as much as it was tedious and difficult to work with, it was still a lot of fun. So, the first thing we are introduced to when we open this booklet is this map of Australasia. Now, before we get to the most obvious thing you will have noticed, let's start with the text beneath it. 6 rough-as-guts nations go into battle against each other. 6 different nations does not just mean 6 different colors, but also 6 swine parties with their own typical national characters. Dialect and vocabulary make these Hogs of War's charming individuals with whom you will quickly become friends with over the course of the game. Here we introduce them to you, what they are called, what they look like, their history, their characteristics, their nicknames, and what else you should know. The first immediate thing you will have noticed about this page are the flags. Each one is based on the real-life flag which the team's nationality is based on, albeit with some slight changes to fictionalize them. While these nations don't have names, the countries or bases they refer to are referenced in this booklet at least. But I do like the idea of this game taking place on an alternative Earth with its own flags and countries. Feels like a nice touch. Call it headcanon if you will. The other thing you've probably noticed is that each nation is apparently located somewhere within Australasia. Or at least each team has taken occupation of different parts of Australasia. I'll go into a bit more detail about this as we talk about the teams. Speaking of which, let's get started. I'll be going in the order that the booklet does. So first up is the Pokolvin. The Pokolvin replaces the Gallic Grunts as the French national team and occupy the island of Hogshead. The team consists of Marcel de Leboeuf-Rosé, Leboeuf for short, a deprived nobleman who escaped from the revolution, rotten right down to the bone, would betray, and has betrayed, his country for a bottle of dry Chateau de Pique. Albert Pate, Patty for short, lives by the principle, equality and liberty do not harm me, wishes to stay out of the war like a typical herd animal. Galop de Cochon, Cochon for short, a moralless pig, always has a hoof in the slaughterhouse, provides cigarettes, baguettes, and pork. Pierre Jambon, Jambon for short, bad-tempered, has been hit on the cheek many times, fled into the army to avoid a lawsuit. Terry Tater, Tater for short, feels like he has been turned mad by the war, buries his head in the sand like a fool in front of his enemies. Henry Obese, Obese for short, an overweight and fattening pig, eats for a family of 3 alone, and can probably feed a small town after he dies. He has already starved various enemy divisions. Georges Porc Flambe, Flambe for short, a former foreign legionnaire, fresh from Africa, burnt brown but tough like the sole of a shoe. Henri Filet, Filet for short, the best cook in the company for everything. If, as the garrison chef, he ever runs out of corn, pearls from the source sometimes help. Jean-Luc Picard, Picard for short, a bald-headed lone pig with a sense of duty and the firm will to impose his worldview onto all even-toed ungulates. Constantly looks at his uniform. References Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek. The Bonsai Quakers replaced the Sushi Swine as the Japanese national team and occupy a region between Beliopolis and Austria. And I'm gonna say this up front. If you are Asian or of Asian descent, you are not going to like what is in this section. I'm just going to post the first image on screen now so you can understand what I'm talking about. Yeah, not exactly racially appropriate regardless of the year, is it? Let's just get through this one and have it over and done with. Buta Morimoto, Buta for short. He actually wanted to go to Europe as a tourist, but due to his extreme short-sightedness, he confused the booking company for the recruitment office. Deng Xiaoping, Xiaoping for short. In war, he's just as out of place as a tofu sausage in a butcher's shop. He actually wanted to become a Buddhist monk. He always has a wise saying up his sleeve and bores his opponents to death. Chop Why Me for short. If Asian politeness didn't forbid it, you could safely assume he was lazy. Puts pressure on himself whenever he can and feels that every command is a personal insult. Dom Sao. He's not exactly the brightest, but he is very popular with his comrades. From military service to Skyfaring Commando, it doesn't matter. He has the advantage of luck on his side. Grunz Lee. He's a martial arts expert and holds a black belt in every class. Even his curly tail is a deadly weapon. Sate Gongpo, Sate for short, comes from a famous family of cooks who invented famous dishes such as number 37, number 53, and 1180. He also likes to use his chopping knife in the rough battle platter of war. Wantan San, Wantan for short. Coming from a time-honored samurai clan, he suffered more from the lack of discipline than from injury. He would rather subject himself to harakiri than be dishonored. Wok Hog, Asian fighting pig and soldier, right down to the bone. Every command is carried out without hesitation. Becomes extremely irritable when wounded because it limits his fitness to fight. And Rehe Shinken, Shinken for short. Brilliant scientist who would already be a millionaire today if he had secured the patent for the video game Pac-Man. Wages war with scientific precision and prefers to calculate the trajectory of every single projectile. The Beefy Boys replaced Uncle Ham's Hogs as the American national team and occupy the island of Trottsville. Though in my opinion, it should really be called Pop Culture Reference the Team. You're about to see why. Isaac Washington III, nicknamed DJ. A pig of African American descent, straight from the ghetto in New York City. A solo artist, he likes to talk about rebellion. Schwart Simpson, Schwart for short. A freshman who smuggled himself into the army from a small town called Speckville. Always knows how to help. References Bart Simpson from The Simpsons. Fatty Malone, nicknamed The Don, a pig from the Chicago underworld that has already brought many a friend to the slaughterhouse. Used to let loose in the Kitty Pig Club. References Don Vito Corleone from The Godfather. Gregory Pig, nicknamed Cow Pig, a cowboy like the best Texas meat. His leather will later be used to make indestructible airplane luggage. References John McClane from the Die Hard series. Mr. Speck, Speck for short, exceptionally clever pointy-eared pig of unknown origin. Very logical. Vegetarian. Strangely, only ever in heat once a year. References Spock from Star Trek. And speaking of Star Trek, James T. Queeg, Tiberius for short, star of the first company. It is said that not even his hair had grown when he made his claim to fame. Whatever he does is done skillfully and thought through. Extremely patriotic. References Captain James Tiberius Kirk from Star Trek. Speck Stripes, nickname Dumbo. His home is in the swamps in the south, where the mud is always warm and the little pigs don't care about school. Strong as a wild boar, but dumb as a box of rocks. Woody Salad, Woody for short. White pig from New Pork City. Lean and only to be served as a side dish. Highly neurotic glasses wearer who likes to settle wars through intellectual discourse. References actor, comedian and filmmaker Woody Allen. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, Arnie for short. A steroid freak of Alpine origin. Muscular but also smart. He's not going to lighten his accent though. The act of silencing oneself in the army is a punishable offense. Do I even need to say who this reference is? The Eisbein replaced the Sauerkrauts as the German national team and occupied most of Beliopolis. The team consists of von Schwartenhorst, nicknamed Der Graf, comes from the old Prussian royalty dynasty. Arrogant and commanding, the Rhine cracks for his subordinates who are poor sausages. His brother is the dreaded Pink Baron. Makmar Sulzuk, nicknamed Respect, garlic providing import pig from the Balkans. Being forced to serve in the war, the bulk of the campaign was lowered when he joined. The enemy has no respect for him and his brother. Manfred Schwatkowski, Manny for short. Where he got his money from is a real mystery. He used to work in truffle mining, but the mine was closed. When he could no longer pay his wages, he was recruited. Kurt Schleicher, nickname Hux, comes from Saxony, unemployed bricklayer. Ordered his take 18 years ago and is waiting for the spare parts for his rifle. Kapitan Eisen, Captain for short. Almost sauerkraut, a real guinea pig, always on the hunt for fish sticks. Has been well hardened through his tough years at sea. Rudolf Soschamer, Rudy for short. He is his own cleanliness fanatic. He holds his head high and wanted to put himself out there for military service. He wasn't allowed to bring his own rifle with him though. Gerd Spakalski, nickname Eid, a real Berlin snout, a master at the goulash cannon and passionate player with the nickname Quick 7. He already has his hands full with war. Borscht Tappert, nickname Cut, an experienced police officer back home, usually never seen without assistance and his greasy trench coat, always sticking his nose into other people's affairs, but cannot see blood. And Reinhold Speckman, nickname Absitz. A sporty pig, he's always one step ahead. A daring researcher with glasses and a uniform. He has never left his comrades on the sidelines. The Fish and Ribs replaced Tommy's Trotters as the British team and occupy the island of Australia. The team consists of Sir Lloyd Humford, Sir Lloyd for short, a well-hung elite soldier. It is suspected that he has something to do with the ham from the Titanic. Gregor McBacon, nickname Haggis, a real McBacon from the clan McBacon, Highland nobility. His ancestors fought alongside Braveheart. Arthur Swiney, Artie for short, a highly strung and easy to impress freshman. He fell in love with war through films such as Pigs, Do You Want to Live Forever? And Nothing New in the Pigsty. When he enlisted into the army, his parents could not talk him out of it. Yup, it's who you think it is, everyone. This is our boy, Albert Potter. You probably noticed a similar sounding name earlier on, so I'm inclined to believe that the German localization team wanted to put the character into the game in a greater capacity. Beefy Barney, Beefy for short. A dock worker from London, a real wild boar. There is not a gram of fat on his body, just muscles. He has a tattoo on his left ear. Cedric, 23rd Earl of
Sandwich!
Nickname Sissy. His great-great-great-grandfather invented the chair of the same name. Since then, the family has a reputation for cannibalism. He lives off the royalties like a maggot in his own bacon and has never done anything wrong in his life. Jack Snout, nickname Russell. He wanted to become an inspector at Complete Yard, but couldn't overcome his own obnoxiousness. He doesn't want to end up as cannon fodder. He has a little pig named Babe waiting for him back home. Ian O'Bore, nickname Grunt. Hard drinker. He favours a double bottle of spirits. Spends most time in the pub than in the stables. He really hates his roommate and often starts pointless fights with them. Okay, I may or may not have slipped some additional information in there. Hey, when you have some freedom to make references, you take them, alright? Lord Percy Pigwick, nickname Congo. A British Congo explorer. A tribe of natives almost turned him into cider, which would explain his aversion to apples. He has been searching for decades for the Holy Grail. And Aspic Powers, codename 006. A compelling agent from a team of elite spies, always in action against a multinational force that wants to wipe out the English. References Austin Powers from the eponymous series. Finally, the Gromskovsky replaced Perestroika as the Russian team. Although the flag seems to suggest that it is more to represent the Soviet Union in general, and occupy most of Austria. The team consists of Pavel Spekov, Spekov for short. Brilliant navigator and strategist, firmly believes that the Russians have discovered and or invented everything, from fire to telegraph lines. But he still dreams of defecting to the enemy, where the future looks bright. References Pavel Chekhov from Star Trek, same as Muskie does. Vladimir Ilyich Palmin, Vladimir for short. A simple farmer from Siberia, whose attempt to produce truffles from the permafrost soil was met with little success. He has no desire for war and lives according to the motto, the others are just pigs. Dmitry Bortakovich, Dmitry for short. An officer who fell out of favor with his superiors when he dug up too much information. Patriotic from hoof to snout. He doesn't eat in the officer's mess, but from a trough with the other soldiers. Fyodor Fetrinsky, Fyodor for short. An anarchist from the start. He converted stables in a coal mine into a farmhouse, rationed mud bathing, chased away pig priests, and abolished the communist lunch festival. He dreams of world revolution. Alexei Solzhenitsyn, Alexej for short. Russian intellectual pig. Deals with the condition of Mother Russia, which he considers to be a stupid pig. His secret companions were able to contribute to individual cases. Pyotr Pitasalov, Pyotr for short. A pale, emancipated pig who has already served as an official under the Tsar. Even in war, he still wears arm pads. No matter what he does, he always gets rid of his fat. Genghis Shman, Genghis for short. A megalomaniacal Mongolian pig who has apparently fathered 3,000 piglets. Has poor physical hygiene, even for a pig. Stinks to high heaven. Ivan Fetbalchitz, Ivan for short. A fat pig, like how it is written. His lunch meals alone are responsible for the Lithuanian famine. His comrades call him Fat Pig behind his back. And Leonid Rupstoid, Leonid for short. Due to his constant vodka replenishment, his drunken hangover is still ongoing. Mistakes the granaries of Ukraine for a liquor warehouse. And that there are all the character bios for the pigs in Frontschweine. But again, most of these are only really applicable to that version of the game, and not Hogs of War on a wider scope. However, it is worth noting that some of the voice lines and traits are carried over from other versions of the game, linking both Hogs of War and Le Cochon de Guerre together. So it is possible that there could be some potential overlap between bios if we were to sort of render down the characters with matching voice lines / traits into one. But I think something like that would need the consensus agreement of the wider community in order to be accepted. Regardless, this was a truly fascinating look into the German version of Hogs of War. And I'm sure it will also be interesting to do a dive into the voice lines at a later date as well and see what was crafted exclusively for this port of the game. But I think for now, there isn't really much point to me looking elsewhere for new Hogs of War content. Unless I get a tip off that there is actually something hidden away in another version of the game, I probably won't be exploring any deeper into other international ports of the game. But I'm not done with Hogs of War. Not by a long shot.